This is Firebase. I'm your host, Gary French. The Bible tells us, and right there when I say the Bible, some people say, oh, turn it off. But let me say it again. The Bible tells us that you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Over the years of my life, I've heard that said many times, and I know you have as well, that the truth will set you free. But you and I need to know that truth is not fluid, and there is such a thing as absolute truth. Marry that up, that thought that there is absolute truth with this. You have a voice. And when you stand up, you must speak up. And there must be more about you than just wishbone. You need to have backbone. In our culture today, we are told that your voice is not important and that truth is not a consideration. The truth is whatever somebody wants to make it up to be. My friends, we cannot be bystanders in this game of life, and we need to do like I was taught when I played football years ago. Boys, we need to play the basics in football. Tonight on Firebase, we talk with our Kentucky congressman from the 4th District, Thomas Massie. As we are based in Kentucky and our home broadcast channel is WBNA Channel 21, which I would encourage you to make part of your regular lineup, out of Louisville, Kentucky, out of that market, Congressman Massie is one of our favorite folks to talk with. He's always very approachable and he's always very honest. And friends, if you know anything about him, you will know that he is loved by conservatives and hated by the left. Over the past 12 years or so of his being the 4th District representative here in Kentucky, he has consistently stood for traditional family values, for the Bill of Rights, and for the Constitution. He takes what I like to say is a common sense approach to government. He is opposed to big government, and he's also in favor of reducing spending. And for you senior citizens, he wants to stop your being taxed on your Social Security income. Wow, that's impressive right there. But my friends, for his stand, we need to know that it's not an easy task in the political climate and culture in which we live today. It seems like everywhere we turn, it's about big government, higher deficits, and let's just spend our way out of the hole that we're in. And here's something that you and I need to know, since I made mention about you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free a moment ago. Thomas Massie stands for truth. And in my own personal life, let me say, the one that I stand for in truth is the one who is the definer of truth, Jesus Christ. Did you know that truth is not predicated upon how you feel? And friends, we need to know this much as well, that when we think about truth, it's not hinged to my feelings or my emotion. It's not even connected to whether I'm a conservative or a liberal. Truth is predicated upon the one who has created truth. It cannot be relativistic. It can't be that, oh, that's true for you, but it's not true for me. There has to be a standard. And there has to be some stability in the understanding of truth. I was speaking to a gentleman recently, and I said, I don't care how often I say Kentucky bluegrass is blue, it will never be blue. Grass is green. Friends, that's the kind of understanding that I want us to know about this program and about our conversation with Thomas Massie this evening. We had the chance to connect with him recently at the Kentucky Truth Summit, which it was a fascinating time that went on for about 9 or 10 hours one Saturday afternoon when we gathered together. He was part of a panel that was speaking that was there. Firebase News, we were the main providers for all of the equipment to live stream this event, and it was we gave the feed to Epic Times. And Epic Times covered that on minimally, but Firebase, we were the only local news media that was there that covered this. None of the local television stations covered this event. None of them. Only myself and our team with Firebase News, we were the only ones that were there. And what we saw there and what we heard there from all of the speakers, healthcare professionals, politicians, and I'll say it like this, and I don't mean it that they were ordinary, but ordinary citizens like myself and you, that just we're concerned citizens of what's happening in Kentucky and in our nation. And here's what we discovered at this meeting of the Kentucky Truth Summit. There is such a thing as truth, and it's not connected to how I view it or how you view it. There is a standard. And as an example, here's what we learned. The Bible is true. Every page of it. Some might disagree, and they may just say, that's my personal view. But let me tell you, I do not cancel a person because they believe opposite of that core value of mine. And the danger today is that in our easily offended society, we have folks who want to silence and cancel people simply because they do not have the same perspective or core value. How sad that is for our nation. Well, on tonight's show, we're going to spend all our time with Congressman Thomas Massie, and we'll get to hear about what he's doing there in Washington, how he's working for you, and some of the things that you and I can do to espouse truth. Thomas, it's good to see you once again.
Oh, good to be here. And this really has been a truth summit. This is the kind of truth will get you banned on social media. So I hope you've got a good platform to broadcast this from.
We do. I've been banned a couple of times already on YouTube. So we're looking for different sources, Rumble and a couple of other things. This has been a great organization, a great event here today, part of the Global COVID Summit. One of the rock stars of the medical field, Dr. Peter McCullough, that I'm hoping to arrange to get in the future. He helps support things like this, like the Global COVID Summit. With Truth Summit, I've asked this of others that have organized this, what do you hope or what would you like to see happen with a Truth Summit, especially about COVID and the vaccine egregious mandates that some people still are following?
Well, you know what this event was for me, it was the inspiration to redouble my efforts in Washington, D.C., because I got to serve on a panel with the vaccine injured. The COVID shot vaccine injured, I should say. And those people aren't going away. I mean, they are human evidence that a crime is being committed and that the government has stepped in to not just to protect multi-billion-dollar companies making obscene profits from these injuries, but also to promote that kind of thing.
Now, early on in part of this process, I remember, is it 2 years ago, or that you were part of a process to get legislation to keep the military from being mandated to be vaccinated. I admire that, but it seems like that hasn't got a lot of push because DOD is still trying to kill our military members.
Right. Well, there has been a victory there. There have actually been 3 victories, one of them by a Kentucky lawyer who's representing me against Pelosi in a mask mandate lawsuit. Chris Wiest and Aaron Seary got a nationwide injunction against the Air Force, the Space Force, Air National Guard, Air Reserves, because they were violating religious freedom. And then subsequently, other lawyers representing members of the Marines and the Navy got injunctions there. So we're winning in the courts. Hopefully in November, we're going to win in Congress. But even then, listen, people have got to pay close attention to their legislator. I don't care what letter is after their name or what they said on TV. Watch the hearings, watch how they vote, and see if they're putting their vote where their mouth is.
You know, sometimes, Thomas, the people feel like that they're the little guy and they're all looking to you, and you're looking for them to say, I need your, if I'm going to accomplish something, I need you at the state level, the grassroots level, to participate and to help on this. A gentleman that I interviewed recently, Brandon Trosclair from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, owns a chain of grocery stores. When it came down that companies that have 100 people or more would have to get them vaccinated, and he has 500 people, he filed lawsuit. And he thought it'd be a lot of people involved in this, and he was on one, but it went to the Supreme Court and he won. Yeah. Are you finding that there's going to be people that need to have that kind of courage? I wanted to say something else, but have some courage to take a stand. That's
We're
works.
Talking anatomy, yes, spine is the best one I've found in Congress to reference.
Thank you very much.
Because a lot of my colleagues lack one. We've got a business in Kentucky, several of them, that refused to shut down under the governor's orders here in Kentucky. We've got people who went to church when our governor, Andy Beshear, sent state troopers there to write down their license plate numbers on Easter Sunday. You know, it would be easier just to stay at home. It would be easier to comply, or it seems like it would be. But here's the problem. Tyrants reward your compliance with more tyranny.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody earlier today, and I said, this feels like, even though I'm not that old, it feels like a founding father moment where we're going to stand against England and their assault.
Gary, my litmus test for politicians, whether I would vote for them and now whether I will endorse them, used to be their response to the Second Amendment. Did they think it was about duck hunting? I've completely rewired my political test. It's now, how did you respond to COVID? And how are you still responding to the tyranny that was perpetrated based on fear? Because the next step is taking us to camps. I mean, we are this close.
Think of Australia and New Zealand in that regard.
Oh, yeah. And if they could get away with it, they would have done it longer. There are people I serve with who believe that if you didn't wear a mask or you didn't get the vaccine, you deserve to be in a camp. And if they could get away with it, they would do it. Now, number one, they're in the minority still. But number two, they can't get away with it. So this is my litmus test. If you didn't understand what happened over these past 2.5 years, I am not backing you. I'm not giving you any more of my trust.
Now, you're doing a lot of other things in Congress. I mean, we could talk right now about COVID and vaccines, and it just ticks me off, this stuff, because you and I talking one time some years ago, we have a lot of people that have more wishbone than they do backbone, and they need to have that backbone. But you were doing some legislation proposal about income tax relief for Social Security and Social Security Administration. How's that coming along?
It's going pretty well, and you know, when it's an election season, I get more people on my bills than normal, and so I don't care how you get to the foot of the cross as long as you get there, right, Gary? Yeah. So, but I've got some people coming to co-sponsor my bills in these waning days of this election season, and one of them is a very popular bill with the people. It should be more popular in D.C. is one that would eliminate the second tax on Social Security. Yeah. You've already been taxed on that money when you pay it in. Right. It's not like a 401k where they defer the taxes. No, they tax it on the way in and they tax it on the way out if you're above the poverty level. It's ridiculous. So my bill would repeal that second tax.
You know, in the panel discussion that you were participating in a few moments ago, I heard some comments from some people asking some really valid questions, and the responses that you made, and then Representative Maddox as well. She's a great legislator here in Kentucky. She's been on the show before, and I like her enthusiasm. One of the things that you may comment, because people say, why can't you guys do this, and why can't you get this, and bills being written, and you didn't say it this way, but this is how my brain hit it. The lobbyists are controlling a lot, and I think the word that Savannah made mention of was Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah. Wow. I mentioned K Street.
Yes.
It's K Street in Washington, D.C., but every state has a Chamber of Commerce. And the tyranny that was perpetrated by the state government was advocated for by the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, because some of their highest paying dues members are the medical institutions, the hospitals, right. And they were all in on this stuff.
Yeah, that sounds like to me that the lobbyists are controlling a lot of things, and we need more people like you to fight against this.
Well, that reminds me, by the way, I take a lot of meetings in my office, okay? You don't have to write me a check to get a meeting with me, but I've got a class of people I won't meet with anymore, a class of companies. If your company has a vaccine mandate, don't darken my door, because we ain't opening it for you.
That's awesome.
This is one, I mean, I've thought of what are the levers I have. I'm a legislator, I can legislate. I'm in hearings, I can do oversight. I had the CEO of Amtrak in there. I think it's the worst 5 minutes of his life, and I was sure that it was, because he's perpetrating the vaccine mandate. But the other tool that I have is, do you get a meeting with me or not? And I typically take a meeting with anybody that I work for in Kentucky. But if you're a company, if you're a corporation, and you have enforced the vaccine mandate, don't ask me for a meeting. It ain't going to happen, because you, through your power, it may not be government power, but through your power over your subordinates that work for you, you're perpetrating this tyranny.
You know, one of the things I like about you a lot, Thomas, is that I've known you since you were a judge executive, and you're the same guy now as you were then, and you're probably more forceful because you've seen the taint of what Washington can do to people, and it's like you can walk into that city and you're just filthy walking into it.
Yeah, there's one reason I'm the same guy I am now as I was when you met me 10 years or 12 years ago. And it's because I'm still married to the same woman. And she liked the guy I was before. She doesn't want a new one. So she has very high standards. And you're right, though. I think I have gotten more aggressive because I've come to see the dark side of this government and what it's going to take to turn it around.
And the dark side is worse than Darth Vader, that's for sure. And I stay the same way that I am because my wife keeps me on track. Yeah, absolutely. What do you see some things that's coming up, especially after November, and what are your hopes to happen in the new legislative year?
There is one bill I know the president's going to sign next year. Because every president for 234 years has signed this bill every year. It's the spending bill. And don't tell me he's not going to sign it. Okay, the reality is it should be 12 separate bills. That's what our rules call for. They turn it into a giant omnibus, and they put all the hostages together. If you want to pay the soldiers, you have to fund tyranny, and I don't go for that. If we would all just say no, separate the bills so I can give the soldiers a pay raise without funding Planned Parenthood, I can, let me pick and choose. I didn't come here to take one vote every year and that was it. So what we need to do is to separate these bills, and then Biden will sign every one of those funding bills. And that's where we put the limitation amendments that say none of the money hereby appropriated shall be used to enforce the military vaccine mandate. Okay. And just a whole host of those. I can write them in my head right now.
What's the outlook that you see, even though Biden will still be in office? And my hope is that we'll have both chambers. I think it looks really good. The left stream of the left news media, we're trying to poo-poo all that and say it's not going to happen. But what do you think the potential it happens to be for energy, getting more energy going, and the XL pipeline and some other things? I know that we were energy independent. What do you think the prospects for that happens to be?
Well, I go back to what tools do we have? So the first tool I mentioned was the spending bill. The other tool we have is oversight. So we bring in those officials at the EPA or the Army Corps who are turning down these permits to do oil exploration or take advantage of those oil resources that we have domestically. Bring them in. Ask them to produce the documents. Show us your math. Show us your science, not political science. I'm a political science denier. I follow science, but not the science. I tweeted the other day, you can trust physics, calculus, biology, and chemistry, but never trust the science if they put the in front of it. So this is the other power we have to affect the change that you're talking about, to get more energy independence. Bring in the people who have crimped the pipelines, right, and call them to account.
Let me ask you just one final, as we wrap up here. I'm really hoping that some good things happen here in Kentucky and across the nation. I sure hope that, and I'm just going to be very vague here, that you guys in Congress, all right, we've got to stop this craziness of 87,000 IRS agents and arming them. That's mind-boggling. It is the epitome of stupidity, and it's the arrogance of governmental overreach.
Yeah, there's some people who think the Second Amendment means that the IRS agents have the right to have a gun. That is not what the Second Amendment is about. Although I encountered Democrats who think that. We need to defund that. Those 87,000 agents aren't going after billionaires, okay? There aren't 87,000 billionaires to go after. And in fact, I put on my social media feed the training programs, the recruitment programs that the IRS uses involve teaching college kids to take a firearm and shake down a guy who owns a landscape company because he bought 2 trucks off the books. Okay, that's what they're going to go after, not billionaires. And when we go to defund it, it has to be in a separate bill, and it should be, from paying the soldiers. Here's one other falsehood about the 87,000 IRS agents. This one's so easy to dispel. They're saying, oh, that's to replace so many people that have retired from the IRS. No, that's not what Congress does. When somebody retires, we've already appropriated for that position. The executive branch just replaces it. They don't need a congressional vote to hire 87,000 people every year to replace the ones that retired. The other falsehood is, even though the number of employees at the IRS has gone down, that hasn't affected their productivity. They're not going to put these 87,000 people in a help center, okay? The reason that it's gone down, we lost 4,000 IRS jobs in my congressional district. Want to know why? Because they were handling paper returns that got computerized. So you don't need those thousands of people to handle the paper returns. So don't let them tell you that they don't have anything but nefarious reasons for hiring these agents.
Is anything that you would like to say finally to the people of Kentucky to say, hey, listen, we talk about help's coming, but I really believe good days are in front of us.
Well, pay close attention to the people you elect, and once you elect them, hold their feet to the fire. Call them up if they're not doing what they said they would do. Everybody's got 2 U.S. senators and 1 U.S. representative. You only need to make 3 phone calls every month and tell them what you think. And I think it does make a difference. They respond to pressure. And the problem is they're being pressured by K Street and the pharmaceutical companies and even the administration. The IRS is pressuring them. They need to hear from their constituents, and that's you all. So let your voices be heard.
Yeah, it's always good to see you. Thanks so much, my friend. God bless.
Thank you.
Welcome back. On this episode this evening, Congressman Thomas Massie talked about the stand against tyranny. We started the program out about talking about truth and knowing the truth, and it shall set you free. And along those lines, let me add this as we wrap up this evening. There's a lot of views out there with which I don't agree, but I simply do not read any person's book, and I don't watch any certain program and just say, okay, I don't agree with that, but I'm going to watch it anyway. If I don't agree with something, I'm just not going to watch it. I don't want them to be canceled. I don't espouse to remove any person who has a view that is not in line with mine to be deplatformed, to be removed from a platform. And that's a danger in our culture today. People like Congressman Massie and even myself, we've been deplatformed a time or two because we have a view that's opposite of others. And that's not American. If somebody has a view that's opposite of mine, well, then I just change the channel. I don't want Big Brother to tune them out. I don't want Big Brother or any organization to say that they have the authority or the right to silence people. Congressman Massie was saying that what needs to happen in our country today is that people don't need to be so timid. And he used it this way. We were talking about having courage, and he says he likes to tell his colleagues they need to have more of a spine. And he shared that some of his colleagues in Congress don't necessarily espouse traditional American values or ideals. And he talked the way about how lobbyists, such as the Chamber of Commerce, controls much of what happens in America. And on a personal bias, I'm not a fan of the Chamber of Commerce. I think they're not about helping local commerce. They're about just filling the coffers of their own pocketbooks. Congressman Massie was very clear, and he was most straightforward when he talked about the dark side of the influence of politics in America. And in tonight's episode, he provided great details of how to make America energy independent again and how to reduce spending, what that would do. You heard him talk about the plan to repeal the double taxation on Social Security that our senior citizens are having to pay. And he commented, and I agree with this, about the lunacy of hiring 87,000 IRS agents and arming them with weapons solely for the purpose of coming after small business to get money from them. The danger, as I commented earlier in our society today, is that people are easily offended. We have folks who want to silence me or to silence you just because they have a different value. And I gave an illustration about the Bible earlier. Well, let me say this. If a person, and this could get me easily canceled, if a person says that the 2020 presidential election was fair and honest, and then you say, I don't think so, I have an opposite view of that, Or if a person says that the COVID-19 vaccine should be mandated, and then another person says, I don't think that it should be mandated, who in the world gives anybody the right to remove them from the air or to cancel them and to say, we don't agree with that view, so we're just going to take you off the air? Whatever happened, the land of the free and the home of the brave? Canceling people's view today is the same way as when we were children, covering up our ears and go, nah, 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 I can't hear you. We don't burn books. Neither should we cancel people. Friends, we are so grateful that you watch Firebase and you keep up with us. Your comments to us, your text to us, and your email messages are important. And we need you to know that we need your support, whether it's for Christian television that we're on or Christian radio, or reaching out and supporting what we do by going to firebasecoffee.com and getting what we believe is some of the best tasting coffee you'll ever taste. We want to encourage you to go purchase some coffee. Go online to the website. You see it there on the screen, and get some coffee and know that it helps support what we're doing here. Because here at Firebase, we like to target the lies by firing for effect with God's truth. Until next week, God bless. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching this most recent episode. Click below the like button. Provide any comments that you like. Also, we will get back to you as soon as we can after you write to us at P.O. Box 39, Perry Park, Kentucky, 40363. Also, let us know if you like really good coffee, and we'll send that out to you as soon as we possibly can. What's the name of the coffee? Firebase.